She laughed when the waiter brought over the package. Not because she knew what it was. Not because it was funny. She laughed because he whispered something in her ear while she ran her fingers down the stem of her cocktail glass, and because her other hand was resting comfortably on his thigh. She didn't even look up at the delivery guy. She signed the receipt with a flourish and passed the box to the floor under her seat like it was just another bar promo. I watched the whole thing from 2 blocks away. The live feed played on my phone. The bar had an open public stream for marketing purposes. Normally just background noise. Influencers posing, overlit cocktails, bored bartenders. But that night, it was showing me everything I wasn't supposed to see. Everything she told me I was crazy to imagine. And the ring, the one I had engraved with the words, "You already have my heart. Say yes if you want the rest," sat untouched under her bar stool, like trash. She never even looked inside the box. She just kept laughing. And his hand never left her leg. You'd think this would be the part where I shut down the app, through my phone, broke something. But I didn't. I kept watching. Not because I couldn't look away, but because I needed to see how far she'd go, how long she'd pretend I didn't exist. The waiter came back. He asked her something, probably if she was going to open it. She waved it off. She laughed again. That sound. It used to mean safety to me. Now it felt like a blade twisting behind my ribs. I recorded the clip. 37 seconds. Then I hit send. Not to her. To someone else. The next message I got back changed everything I thought I knew about that night, and about who really mailed the ring. Because it turns out, I wasn't the only one who had sent her something that night. And his message wasn't meant to propose. It was meant to destroy. I thought I was being clever. Thought I'd crafted the perfect moment. Send her the ring while she was out pretending to be with friends. Let her open it in front of whoever she was really meeting, force a reaction. Truth was, I didn't want it yes anymore. I just wanted her caught in the spotlight. But it turns out, someone else beat me to it. That second message came from a number I didn't recognize. No name. No greeting. Just 4 words. You should open yours. At first, I thought it was a wrong number. I was too caught up in the scene playing out on the bar's live stream to care. But the timing, it was perfect. It came exactly 20 minutes after the ring delivery. I stared at it, then glanced toward my apartment door. There was a small white box on my doorstep. I didn't hear it arrive. No knock. No doorbell. Just there. No logo. No return address. Just my name written in block letters, and underneath, one word, Colton. I hesitated before opening it. Not because I was scared. I was too numb for fear. But something about it felt deliberate, cold. Like whoever sent it knew exactly where I'd be, what I'd be watching, and the moment my silence would become curiosity. Inside was a flash drive. And a napkin. The napkin was from Copper Finch, the bar she was in. On it, someone had written, "She's been coming here every Tuesday. He always orders the same thing. So does she." No name. No signature. Just facts. I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. It held one folder. Dated. Titled 7 Weeks. 7 weeks of surveillance footage. Screenshots. Voice memos. One video for each Tuesday night. Same bar. Same table. Same man. Her hand always on his arm. Her body language always screaming mine. The most recent file, just labeled Tonight, had been taken from a closer angle. Not a security feed. A phone. Someone had been there, filming her just minutes before I sent the ring. The clip was only 23 seconds long, but it made my hands shake. She was leaning into him, laughing, just like I saw on the live feed. But this time, her voice was clear. He's too soft. He doesn't even fight when I disappear. I think he actually believes I'm still finding myself. He laughs. So what are you going to do when he proposes? She shrugs. Probably fake cry. Take the ring. Then sell it. I already know a guy who buys custom stones. I hit pause. I didn't move. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, staring at her frozen face on the screen, replaying that last sentence again and again until it blurred. That's when I realized, whoever sent me this didn't just want to expose her. They wanted to recruit me. Buried inside the same folder was a PDF. It was a document. Legal looking. Notarized. An address on the bottom. It was a marriage license application, hers and that guy's name. Filed 2 days ago. And she had signed it while still living in my apartment. That's when it hit me. The second package wasn't just revenge. It was an invitation. Someone out there wanted me to know the truth. And they were waiting for me to do something about it. But the craziest part? I had no idea who they were. And they already knew everything about me. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I couldn't. I didn't even try. I just sat there in my living room, the glow of my laptop screen flickering in the reflection of the window, like a campfire I was too scared to move away from. Every few minutes, I'd glance toward the flash drive on the table, as if it would explode or vanish or grow teeth and laugh at me. I still hadn't processed what I'd seen. I wasn't sure if I wanted to. Somewhere around 4:17 a.m., my phone vibrated. New message. Same unknown number. He's not who she thinks he is. But you already knew that. No context. No name. No follow-up. I typed back one word. Who? Nothing. So I got up, dragged myself to the bathroom, and looked at my face in the mirror. It felt like looking at someone else. The kind of man who watches his fiancée betray him from a screen instead of walking into the bar and ending it right there. The kind of man who waits for packages instead of answers. I hated that guy, but I was him. I splashed water on my face, but before I could dry it, another message came in. Check your mailbox. Bottom slot. I live in a small complex. The kind with rusty metal boxes and no cameras. Still, I slipped on a hoodie and went outside. It was cold. Not winter cold, but bone deep, like the weather knew something was ending. Inside the bottom mailbox slot was a manila envelope, folded in half and jammed behind the utility bills. No return address. No stamp. Just a post-it stuck to the front. You've been watching her. Now watch him. I didn't go back upstairs. I sat on the concrete steps and opened the envelope right there, using my fingernail to slit the edge. Inside, printed photographs. Dozens. Every one of them was of the guy from the bar. But not just with her. In one photo, he was sitting with an older man, someone who looked military. Another photo showed him walking out of an office I recognized, a private investigations firm downtown. And then, the ones that made my stomach drop. There were photos of him with another woman. Not Maribel. Not me. A third woman. Tall. Blonde. Always smiling at him like she didn't know he was sitting in bars making plans to propose to someone else's fiancée. In one picture, they were holding hands outside a courthouse. In another, he was helping her into a black SUV. But then came the worst one. It was dated 3 weeks ago. And in that picture, he was handing her an envelope. The same kind of envelope I just received. That's when I realized. Whoever this guy was, he wasn't just sleeping with my fiancée. He was recruiting her. Or watching her. Or watching me. And someone out there had made it their mission to blow it all up. I ran upstairs, locked the door, and dumped the photos out across my kitchen table. I grabbed my laptop, opened the folder from the flash drive again, and started zooming in on his face from the videos. I looked at the timestamp metadata. I checked the bar's geolocation tags. I cross-referenced everything. It wasn't random. None of this was random. She hadn't just been lying to me about who he was, she might not even know herself. I typed another message to the unknown number. Why are you doing this? They replied instantly. Because I already did it once. And she got away. You're not the first. I sat frozen. Not the first? Not the first what? Victim? Target? I didn't know it yet, but this wasn't just a cheating story. This was a setup, and I was already tangled in something deeper than betrayal. I was in the middle of a trap, and I had no idea who had set it, or why they wanted me to see it fall. I didn't leave my apartment for 2 days. Not because I was afraid of what I'd find out. I was afraid I already knew. The man Maribel was laughing with, touching under the table, leaning into like they had years of inside jokes. He wasn't just some rebound. He was methodical. Structured. Controlled. I've seen confidence before. This was something else. He wasn't just seducing her. He was handling her. I kept going over the photos, every angle, every timestamp, every smirk. And that woman? The blonde in the photos he was seen with, the one stepping into the black SUV? I'd never seen her before in person, but I recognized her. Because her name had shown up in an email I was never supposed to read. 2 months ago, Maribel left her laptop open while taking a bath. I wasn't snooping. I swear I wasn't. I only looked because the subject line popped up in the corner. Elise says it's safe. That name. Elise. I remembered thinking it sounded too clean. Too curated. Like a fake name on a resume. I clicked it open, and the thread was short, 2 lines. From Bell. To redacted. Subject. Elise says it's safe. Okay. I'll meet him Thursday. Same bar. I'll act casual. That was it. At the time, I chalked it up to some client thing. She worked in public relations. People got weird about NDAs and VIPs all the time. I let it go. Now I was staring at Elise's face in a photo. Blonde hair, white coat, red lipstick, and an expression that looked like it hadn't cracked in years. I flipped one photo over. Someone had written something on the back in pencil. Ask her about Belize. Ask her what really happened to Todd. My stomach dropped. Todd. There was only one Todd we both knew. Todd Whitlow. My former coworker. We weren't close, but we played poker together once a month. Belle always thought he was boring too flat, she used to say. He was the guy who disappeared from the company 6 months ago. No one knew why. No goodbye email. No LinkedIn update. Just gone. And now some stranger was telling me to ask her what happened to him? I needed answers. I couldn't sit in the shadows anymore. Not after this. So I did something I swore I'd never do again. I messaged her. Just one line. Belle, can we talk? No typing dots. No reply. Nothing. I stared at my screen for an hour. 2. I didn't move. Then, just before midnight, she texted back. Not over the phone. Not here. Where? I asked. The church lot on 3rd and Willow. Tomorrow. 9:45 a.m. Don't be late. And come alone. The church lot. That place had history. That was where we used to park and talk for hours in her old Corolla back when we couldn't afford dates. It used to be where things began. Now it was where she wanted to explain. The next morning, I drove there early. The lot was empty. Fog clung to the pavement, and the air smelled like rain and rust. I parked in the back and waited. At exactly 9:45, her car pulled in. Burgundy Honda. Same one she used when we met. She didn't get out. She just stared at me through the windshield. And for a moment, I thought she might drive away. But then the passenger door popped open. I slid in without saying a word. She looked different. Tired, but not guilty. Like someone who'd been waiting for the truth to catch up to her. She didn't say hi. She didn't cry. She just reached into the glove box and pulled out an envelope. It was identical to the one I'd received with the flash drive. She dropped it on my lap. You think you're being pulled into something? Colton, you already were. From the moment I met you. I stared at her. What are you talking about? She shook her head. It was never about love. Not for Elise. Not for him. And eventually, not for me. I opened the envelope. Inside, a photo of me. Taken from behind. Sitting at my desk. My home desk. The one in my bedroom. Dated 16 months ago. Before I ever knew the name Elise. Before I ever proposed. Before I ever suspected a thing. She looked at me, finally, and whispered something that felt like ice down my spine. You need to stop thinking of this as betrayal. Then what is it? Recruitment. And that's when she told me. Elise was watching both of us. And we weren't the only ones. I sat there in the church parking lot, holding a photo of myself I had never seen, taken from a place no one was supposed to be. My laptop was open in the background. A spreadsheet on the screen. I zoomed in mentally on everything. The angle, the lighting, the exact spot on the hardwood where that photo could have been taken from. It would have required someone inside. Inside my home. In my life. At a time when I still believed Mary Bell loved me without conditions. She just watched me, her face unreadable. No tears. No remorse. Just resignation. Like she had already lived through this conversation in her mind 1,000 times. When was this taken? I asked. Before we moved in together. How? Why? You weren't supposed to see that photo, she said, voice low, almost ashamed. Not yet. Not yet. I snapped. What does that even mean? She turned to face me fully, jaw clenched. Colton, I don't know how to explain this without sounding insane, but nothing about us happened by accident. Nothing. Elise, she doesn't work alone. She scouts. She builds connections. Some are romantic, some aren't. Some are about loyalty, some about leverage. Leverage. I repeated. So what was I? A pet project? A job? You were safe, she whispered. They wanted someone they could train. Someone quiet, stable, invisible the most. Someone who had access to certain infrastructure and who wouldn't ask too many questions when they were handed a promotion or a consulting opportunity. You mean me? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The air between us thickened. Somewhere a church bell rang, low and distant, like a countdown I hadn't agreed to. And him? I asked. The guy you're with now? She blinked. He was my handler. That word hit me like a slap. I didn't choose him, she added quickly. At least, not at first. At first, I laughed bitterly. You seemed pretty damn comfortable with his hand on your leg. She flinched. You weren't supposed to see that either. I stared at her. And yet here I am, seeing everything. She reached for something in her coat and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was worn, creased at the edges like it had been unfolded and refolded dozens of times. She handed it to me. It was a list, a column of names. Some were crossed out. My name was at the very bottom. Next to mine, 2 boxes. One labeled converted. The other, refused. Neither was checked. Belle, what is this? She looked away. Candidates. For my rotation. You make it sound like a casting call. It is. Just not for a movie. And then she said it. The thing that finally made me understand why none of this felt like just a cheating scandal, or a secret affair, or even a scam. They don't want money, Colton. They don't want exposure. They want people who won't be missed when they disappear. Or better, people who will willingly walk into the dark. My throat dried up. For what? That depends on what's in the second box they give you. What second box? Her face darkened. The one you haven't received yet. But you will. I sat there, the envelope with my photo still clutched in one hand, and the list of names in the other. Most of them were unfamiliar. But one near the top jolted me. Todd Whitlow. The same Todd I used to play poker with. The one who'd vanished. I pointed to it. He said no, she said softly. And then, she hesitated. Then gave me a look I'll never forget. Then he didn't come to poker night. Or work. Or anywhere. My stomach turned. You're telling me he's dead? She just stared straight ahead. I'm telling you no one has seen him since he ticked the wrong box. We sat in silence for a long time. Then she looked at me with something close to pity. They'll offer you something soon. A new job. Or an assignment. Or a favor. It'll feel like a good thing at first. But whatever you do, Colton. She leaned in close, her breath cold and steady. Don't open the second box. And then, without waiting for me to respond, she started the car and drove away. She didn't look back. And she didn't need to. Because back at my apartment, waiting just inside my front door, was a square black package. No label. No stamp. No note. Just a red wax seal on the front. I didn't touch it. I just stared. And suddenly, I understood why Todd never came back. I stood in my apartment for over 3 hours and didn't move. The black box sat in the entryway like it had been waiting for me my whole life. It wasn't large, maybe the size of a shoebox, but it pulled the air out of the room. Every creak in the floorboards sounded louder. Every clock tick echoed like thunder. My fridge kicked on and nearly gave me a heart attack. I didn't touch it. I circled it like it might explode. Belle told me not to open it. She'd whispered it like a prayer. Don't open the second box. But she also told me I'd never been given a choice to begin with. That this had all been scripted long before I knew her name. That Elise, whoever the hell she really was, had her eyes on me since before Belle ever sat across from me at that insurance seminar. Which meant if this box was here, sealed with red wax and no address, the decision might have already been made for me. But I opened it anyway. Because whatever I had become in this story, it wasn't someone who could just stand still anymore. The wax seal snapped with a crack. Inside wasn't what I expected. No contract, no weapon, no instructions. Just 2 things. A phone and a photograph. The phone was a model I didn't recognize. Sleek, unbranded, black screen with a single red dot blinking in the corner. I didn't dare turn it on. The photograph, though, that was what made my heart implode. It was a picture of me, yes, but not like the last one. Not taken from inside my apartment. This one had been taken 2 years ago. I was at a hospital, in a hallway, talking to someone I hadn't seen since that day. My brother, Jesse. Except the photo was angled from behind, and Jesse looked scared, or maybe guilty. His hand was outstretched, almost pleading. And my face, I couldn't see it, but I remembered the moment. Because I hadn't spoken to him since. He'd told me something I couldn't forget that day. That he was leaving the country. That it wasn't by choice. That he'd gotten involved with the wrong people, and he couldn't say more than that. I thought it was drugs. Or gambling. Or some mess he'd made and was running from. He wouldn't give details. He just said he was sorry and told me not to follow him. That I'd be safer pretending he was already dead. But now, years later, someone had taken a photo of that moment. Someone had been there. Someone who wanted me to see it now, as a warning or as bait. I didn't know. I dropped the picture and backed away. The phone blinked once. Then again. Then it rang. I let it ring 12 times. Then silence. Then a text popped up on the black screen. You've been compartmentalized. Choose a path. Another ping. A. You remember him. B. You never did. See, you report to US. No explanation. No buttons to press. Just text. My hands trembled as I read it over and over. And then another message came in, one that made me sit down so hard I nearly fell. If you reply with anything else, he dies. I stared at that sentence for so long I didn't realize I was holding my breath. And then, another photo appeared. This time Liv. Jesse. He was alive. But barely. He sat on a metal chair in what looked like a shipping container. His head was down. A black eye. Torn shirt. A water bottle at his feet, unopened. A timestamp flashed in the corner. 7 minutes ago. They were showing me proof of life. I typed back. A. Nothing. Then, B. Nothing again. Then, like a fool, I typed. I don't understand what you want from me. The phone vibrated once. Then died. No power. No restart option. No response. Gone. That was when I heard the knock on my door. Not loud. Just 4 soft taps. I crept up, looked through the peephole. No one. But when I opened the door, there was something else waiting. A file folder. Inside, 3 pages. A dossier. With my name on it. A new alias. A location. And a departure date. Tomorrow. I wasn't being asked. I was being moved. And in the corner of the last page, a handwritten note in ink. We only break the rules for recruits who matter. This time, you choose where the story goes. B. I wanted to scream. But I didn't. Because deep down, some broken, forgotten part of me felt it coming all along. And now, I had less than 24 hours to disappear or become something I couldn't come back from. There's something that happens to you when you realize no one's ever going to give you the full truth, not the woman you loved, not the people watching you, not even your own memory. You stop trying to understand everything. You start trying to control what you can. You become quiet, focused, not calm, just cold. They gave me 24 hours. I didn't pack. I didn't run. I didn't call anyone. Instead, I used 23 of those hours to plan one thing. A reversal. It began with the folder they left me, the one that included a name, an ID badge, a destination. They wanted me to become someone else, to walk into a new life with a new name, new job, and a new assignment. But I wasn't interested in disappearing into some government ghost program or corporate black site. I wasn't going to play their game. I was going to turn their game inside out. First thing I did was scan every page in the dossier. I uploaded everything to a cold storage cloud I'd set up years ago for security work. Something no one but me could access, hidden behind 8 layers of decoys and a file labeled 2020 tax docs. Next, I went into the phone they'd given me, the one that died after I disobeyed their text prompt. I knew it had a failsafe, likely triggered remotely. What they didn't expect was that I'd taken out the SIM card and cloned it before ever powering it on. That gave me a digital echo of the phone's short life. Every incoming message, every autoconfig ping, every connection log, and one IP address. The signal had bounced through 5 proxies, but I traced one pattern, a brief handoff to a relay server in Massachusetts. The only relay that had a 2-second delay. That meant someone, somewhere, was still manually pushing instructions through the network. That's where I'd start. But I needed leverage first. Something real. Something they couldn't erase. So I did the one thing they wouldn't expect. I called her. Maribel. I knew she wouldn't pick up, not after the last meeting. So I left a voicemail. You said I'd be recruited. You were wrong. I was tested. And I passed. Meet me where it started, not where we kissed. Where you lied. You know the spot. I was talking about her first apartment. The tiny studio with the rusted fire escape and the alley view of the dry cleaner. I'd never been inside, just dropped her off there early in our relationship before she moved in with me. She used to tell me she loved it because it smelled like clean mistakes. I waited 6 hours. At exactly 7:33 p.m., someone buzzed me through the alley door. No one was visible. But when I reached the rooftop, she was already there. She looked worse than before. Paler. Thinner. Her hands trembled when she lit her cigarette, though she hadn't smoked in years. I didn't say anything at first. I just held out the envelope. Not the one they gave me when I made. Inside, 3 photos I hadn't shown her. One of Jesse, live and alive. One of Elise walking into a meeting with a man whose name I now knew. And one of me, standing outside that very bar where she took the ring and left it under her chair. Maribel took the envelope. Looked through it once. Then again. Then whispered, "How much do you know?" "I know enough to burn it down," I said. "But not enough to survive the fire." She nodded. "So why are you here?" I want her, I said. Not revenge. Not closure. Her. I want Elise. Her eyes flickered. You think that's how this works? You think anyone ever gets Elise? I don't want to find her, I said. I want to lure her. That got her attention. I'll go through with it, I told her. I'll follow the plan. Get on the plane. Assume the identity. Let them move me to wherever this program leads. But I leave behind a switch. Something that turns the light on. She exhaled smoke. They'll know. They always know. Then tell them it was your idea. Her lip twitched. They'll kill me. I stepped closer. Only if they think you're loyal to me. But if they believe you saved me, you survive. And I get to the center. She stared at me like she was seeing something she hadn't expected. Like maybe the quiet, forgettable man she was sent to manipulate had vanished somewhere along the way. And someone sharper, more dangerous, had taken his place. They'll give you a handler, she said. Someone to oversee your integration. It won't be him. Good. Whoever they assign, don't trust them. I smiled grimly. I haven't trusted anyone since the first ring I mailed. And with that, we shook hands. It felt more like a transaction than a truce. But it was enough. The next morning, I boarded the plane. Passport under a new name. Luggage minimal. New ID. New history. New phone already activated and waiting in my seat back. A man in a navy suit sat beside me. Quiet. Professional. Sunglasses on inside the cabin. First time to Reykjavik? He asked casually, like it was small talk. I nodded. First time being someone else? He didn't flinch. Just smiled slightly. Welcome to the other side, he said. And the plane lifted off. But the thing is, I didn't come alone. Tucked into the lining of my coat was something I hadn't told Maribel about. A second flash drive. With every trace of what I'd found. Every photo. Every timestamp. Every message. And a GPS signal that would trigger the moment I landed. Not to alert the people waiting for me, but to summon someone else entirely. Because if Elise wanted a ghost, she was about to meet the one that could haunt her. Reykjavik looked nothing like I imagined. Cold light poured through the airport windows like it had nowhere else to go. The air smelled like metal and sea. The man beside me, my new handler, walked a half step behind, never speaking after our brief exchange on the plane. He didn't need to. The silence was the language here. They took me in through a side gate. No customs, no questions, no phones. Within the hour, I was standing in what looked like an old energy plant turned into a facility. Industrial glass. Smooth black floors. People walked with purpose but avoided eye contact. Everyone wore the same dull gray jackets. I was given one too. They called it an integration orientation. But it wasn't training. It was assessment. They showed me screens. Faces. Names. Asked me hypothetical questions, who I'd save in a fire, what I'd do if I received conflicting orders, whether I believed truth was absolute. I answered none of them the way they wanted. I knew that because they never responded. They just kept watching. But by day 4, something shifted. They brought me to a narrow, white hallway. And at the far end, she waited. Elise. She wasn't what I expected. Older. Composed. No drama in her eyes. Her voice was lower than I imagined, smooth and exacting. You should have chosen option C, Colton, she said, without looking up. I chose something else, I replied. Yes. I read the transcript. There was no anger in her voice. Just disappointment, like a teacher reviewing an essay that didn't follow the rubric. I didn't bring you here to punish you, she continued. I brought you here because you're not like the others. You were supposed to break, or beg, or vanish. I said nothing. She stood and walked toward me, measured and slow. But instead, she said, you left a trail. You built something they couldn't delete. And you forced a contingency I thought I'd buried. She stopped in front of me. So now you get a different choice. I raised an eyebrow. A real one this time? She nodded. You can stay, become part of the design. Help us use your mind. Or, you can leave. Walk away. No one will follow you. No one will contact you. We'll wipe everything we have on you. You'll be free. It sounded too perfect. But then she handed me something. A key. And a flight ticket. One way. To Colorado Springs. Why? I asked. Because I was wrong about you, she said. That's it. She hesitated. And because you reminded me that not every ghost we train stays dead. Some come back stronger. I stared at her. What happens if I leave and speak? I asked. She smiled faintly. No one will believe you. And you know it. That's what makes this such a clean ending. And what about Maribel? She completed her role. She gets her ending too. What kind of ending? Elise's smile softened. almost like respect. A second chance. I stared at the key, then turned away without another word. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't ask for more. I just left. 36 hours later, I stood on a ridge overlooking a lake in Colorado, key in hand. A small cabin waited behind me. Quiet. Empty. Paid for in full. New identity, but this time, when I chose myself. The flash drive I left behind? Never made the news. But that wasn't the point. Because I didn't need the world to know. I just needed to know that I hadn't been erased. Weeks passed. Then months. And slowly, I stopped checking my back. Stopped expecting the knock at 3 a.m. And one afternoon, as I was fixing the roof, I saw a woman walking up the hill. She wore a gray coat. And when she got close enough, I saw the look in her eyes. It wasn't Elise. It was her. Maribel. No suit. No mission. Just a backpack and a scar on her temple. She said nothing at first. Then finally, they let me go. Why? I asked. Because I told them the truth. I wasn't playing anymore. We stood in silence. Then I asked the question that had haunted me for too long. Did any of it mean anything? Us. She looked down, then nodded. More than you'll ever know. And that's when I realized she wasn't lying. We didn't kiss. We didn't fall into each other's arms. We just sat by the water that night and listened to the trees moving in the dark, not as fugitives, not as agents or pawns or projects. Just two people who had made it out alive. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. I didn't mail another ring. I didn't need to. I got something better. I got myself back. And no one, not Elise, not the system, not even the past, would ever take that from me again.